What is political marketing? It's the art of marketing a candidate to voters. If you'd like to know how to do that, stick around because I'm going to tell you some really cool stuff. There are 3 foundational rules. When you do this, we're going to talk about that in this video: the message, the targeting, and the means. And once we're done with that, we're going to go into how you execute a plan and some rules to follow so that your strategy makes perfect sense. And we're going to start with your message. What is a campaign message? It is the 5 things that voters kind of expect you to tell them over the course of a political campaign. And first and foremost, what they want to know is, what are you going to do for them? What are you going to do for your jurisdiction, your state, your country? What are you going to do that improves their quality of life? What are you going to do that makes their standard of living go up the ladder instead of down? What are you going to do to preserve their social safety net and keep their taxes down? That is fundamental to a campaign message. That's what we call your why. Now, there are 4 other things that go into doing a correct campaign message. They'd like to know what makes you qualified to run for office, just a little bit about your biography. They would like to know your notions of right and wrong, what we in this line of work call your moral code. Do you care about the same things they care about? They'd like to have a little information about why they should trust you to do the right thing when they're not looking. The other thing they want to know, which is item number 5 here, is what makes you better than your opponent. All 5 of these questions should be answered in your campaign message if you expect voters to have enough information to make an informed decision when they vote. That is item number 1. Item number 2 is what we call your targeting. Here's the truth about political campaigns. No matter what you say, no matter what you stand for, there are probably going to be some people in your jurisdiction that are just never going to vote for you, especially if you're running on a party line that they don't like, or especially if there's someone of your background that they're just never going to support. So one of the keys to a political marketing campaign is figuring out what piece of the political marketplace will either vote for you if they vote, or that piece of your political marketplace that can be persuaded to vote for you if you make a clear and compelling argument about why they should do it. The other piece you don't want to worry about. In fact, those that are not going to vote for you, don't spend any money trying to reach them at all. It's just a waste of your money. So how do you go about doing this? Well, there's several ways to consider your jurisdiction. Look at it geographically. Do you have certain pockets of support in certain areas? Is there a demographic slice of the electorate that you will be really appealing to based upon your issue positions or your age or ethnicity or your race or your partisan affiliation? Is there a difference in your jurisdiction between urban and rural and suburban? If you properly target your message to the voters who are persuadable or will vote for you if they see your name on the ballot, then you have a pretty cohesive strategy of who to target, and especially who to niche market to with your social media. If you don't know where to find this kind of information, leave a comment in the comment section and I will tell you where to find it. The third thing to consider in political marketing is the means that you will use to disseminate your message to the voters who need to hear your message. And here's where it gets kind of fun. There is the inexpensive, the stuff that you can do on the cheap that doesn't cost a lot of money, and we'll also talk about the things that do cost money. Now, I mention this because no candidate ever has all of the money that they would like to have to spend in a political campaign. And sometimes, especially if you're running a grassroots campaign, your advertising strategy and marketing strategy is going to rely very heavily on the inexpensive ways to get a message to the electorate. What are they? Well, number one is social media. It is the most important tool that any candidate has in a political campaign today. It has revolutionized politics. It's going to be with us for a while. What are those social media platforms to look at? YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and occasionally people are even using LinkedIn to communicate political messaging. Now, two of those are really video intensive, TikTok and YouTube. So part of your social media messaging is you got to learn to talk to a camera, get over it. Anybody can do it if they got something important to say. Two of those that I mentioned are kind of pictures and words that go together. That would be short videos on Instagram, but mainly pictures and words. And Facebook, it is more of a picture and word medium than it is a video medium. Twitter, X, whatever we call it these days, is some combination of pictures and words, but mainly words and back and forth with influential people that populate X. And LinkedIn is almost all words. Now, in your marketing strategy, I'd suggest you consider using all of these, especially if you have a diverse group of people in your audience as you would define. In your strategy and which ones you use, I would suggest you take a very close look at the age brackets of voters in your marketing universe. If you have no young voters that are going to be voting in your primary, maybe TikTok isn't as useful to you, but it also means that YouTube might be really useful. It's one of the inexpensive ways to prosecute and execute your marketing campaign. But that's not the only inexpensive way to do it. I commonly get text messages from political candidates, and sometimes I read them and I open them. Every day I must get 30 or 40 emails from candidates communicating that way. Neither one of them are terribly expensive when it comes to disseminating political information. I've had people knock on my door. I have people who've handed me literature on a street corner. Those are two other ways to do it. I've had people leave door hangers on my door. That is another tried and true way of disseminating a campaign message. I've seen people stand on street corners and gather signatures, petitions. Another tried and true way and a byproduct of door-to-door canvassing is using yard signs to disseminate your message. They get noticed and people see that you're running a campaign. It helps your name recognition and your branding. Those are inexpensive ways to do it. Let's talk about the things that cost money. Television. Well, there are kind of four kinds of TV that you need to pay attention to. You can run ads on cable networks. In certain places, candidates use commercial television. That's really expensive, but sometimes it makes sense if you have a large group of people you're trying to reach. There is CTV, television connected to a cable company. There is OTT. That's what we call over-the-top television, where people have just an internet connection and they get their information through internet that's not connected to a cable company. All of those are means of getting a visual presentation to the voters. They have different costs depending on the type and the size of the jurisdiction you want to reach. Another tried and true, especially in rural areas, mostly rural areas, have a dominant radio station that candidates use to advertise. And the universal means of sending a message at the same time to a certain group of targeted people is what we call persuasion mail. As I film this, we've only a week past an election that took place in New York City. I saved every political mail piece I received this year from various candidates. over the course of the last month of the campaign. I had 50 different pieces of mail delivered to my mailbox from one candidate or another over the course of the campaign. And ironically, the one that I received the most mail from was the candidate who won the election. Obviously, he was very, very well funded. But that's why I say, if you have the resources to do that kind of broadcast, far-reaching advertising, it is and should be part of your marketing plan. These are the basics of how you put together a political advertising campaign. Now, we're going to talk about just a second here that notion of resources. If you're going to get into a campaign, you should at least try to raise some money, because the more money you have, the more you can amplify your message. So, how to raise money in a political campaign. Underneath this video, you're going to find a link to a video with that exact title. So use the information you've learned here, but next thing, go to that video and watch it so that you know how to raise money so that you can prosecute a political marketing strategy.